Okay, so I'll say it again. This is the dam removal subcommittee of the Warners Pond Task Force. This is August 7th, 2024. And our location is on Zoom today. And so we've called the meeting to order. Present are, can we go around?
Malcolm Bryant.
Sven Weber.
Liz Morrison Howe.
Jeff Collins.
And Vicky Alani. Okay, we'll start with the approval of the last minutes.
I did send the minutes to everybody, so you should have had a copy.
If anybody wants to approve them.
They look great, Malcolm. Thank you for pulling them together. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Great, everybody,
Aye.
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 I abstain because I don't know.
Okay. Okay. They still get approved because we're still a quorum,
Yeah.
so we're good. Okay, so our agenda today, if I remember correctly, is we're going to review our 3 schemes. I have drawings of 2 of them, and we still had to talk about the 3rd one, but we can talk about it based on one of them and add to it. We're going to review other questions that we might want to add or ask or answer for next week to the task force. And anything else we can come up with during the meeting. We also wanted to take public comment. Last time we took it in the beginning and the end, and I don't mind doing that again if everyone's okay with it. It wasn't a lot of time and public input was great. So does that everybody agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. So does anybody have public comment for us to think about during the meeting or about our last meeting? I see none, so we can get started. Okay.
Oh, Vicky, I think, can we just reiterate in case there's anyone new, what the purpose of our task force is or our subgroup is?
Oh, do you want to reiterate that?
Yeah, I don't know if you do that. So just as a reminder, the task force has been divided into 3 working groups. Each working group is working on a different option. This group is to design a plan for dam removal, and our goal is our charge is to put together the best dam removal proposal we can come up with. Our charge is we're not discussing the like which of the ultimate options we are thinking are good or not. It's just it's a narrow focus on coming up with the best dam removal ideas we can come up with. Is that, are you like agreement?
Yes, and it's for proposal to the full task force for comment. So that'll be the next step. So plenty of time for more comment and like pulling these into a better position, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we want, I can start with pulling up sketches that we had I compiled based on what we had talked about, and these are drafts. Anything goes, so don't feel like this is in some way leading the charge here in any way. So I just want to get everybody back together. The first one of these is just the existing conditions. So I want to make sure all of the existing conditions we want to show up on here show up. So you're looking here, this is overlaid on a Google map, so you can kind of start to see other detail underneath. But we have the big things we have Route 2, the Rotary, we have Commonwealth Avenue here, Laws Brook along the bottom, the train station and sort of downtown West Concord is here, Warners Pond, Fort Brook, moving up here, Pond Road, or Wright Road and Pond Road show up on here, or Pond Street. And then Bruce Freeman Trail is across here, the MCI property and the small parking lot, and then Giroux Park.
Would be good to have the current access points also somehow noted somewhere.
Oh yeah, okay. Which would be mostly this one off of ComAv, the boat launch.
And then you have the other one on the south side.
On Pond Street.
On Pond Street.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so that one, my question on that one is, because I think this was a question of, this is public land right here, right? Is this town land, I guess? But does it connect to Pond Street? Or
Yes.
does it not?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Great. I will add those two. And we can come back to this, so.
Yeah, it's just for the record that we know
Yeah, no, that's good.
two access points right now.
Super helpful, yep. Then I can go to the second one, which was really an overlay on top of that, which was the, if all we did was get rid of the dam, what would be the route for the brook? And I didn't add anything to here except stars where I thought we needed to figure some things out. Like, what are we saying about this brook in these locations? Like, the dam is gone, this does run through sort of this way. We don't know 100%, but it
Yeah.
looks like it's gonna, I
So-
think we'll get more from the 30% dam removal report, I hope, which we still haven't seen. But it'll be something like this. And some of the questions, and you guys will help me after this, areas to clarify are these starred areas, like, what are the depths gonna be in these areas? What is the access going to be here and here? Like, will we be able to actually get down into there? How deep are these areas? I know, Liz, you had said you would try to come up with some ideas, because right now there's really almost no water down here.
Yeah, I went to take some pictures and I didn't have time till today, and I looked at the dam, I'm like, well, the dam's flowing, so it's probably not a good representation of
Yeah.
low water, so I'll
Mm.
try to get
Yeah.
out.
Well, because we
Yeah.
just had rain, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, timing.
Mhm.
And then also, what is the fish passage scenario? Because that is one of the reasons we're doing this, to facilitate fish passage. So I think those are the three big questions that lay in this, right?
So that remaining pond area, that 4 acres, it was purposely left out here, or?
Well, this theoretically would all go to grassland and wetland and other types of, it'll fill in the.
No,
brook-
it's the study said is we will have
The
a
whole.
4 acre deep area there, up
But-
there in the
But my
north.
understanding was it will until it fills with sediment, and over time it will actually even out, because if the water is
That's
flowing
not-
this way with sediment, it will
That's not
find.
my understanding.
Oh,
No,
so
I
maybe-
actually, I've been trying to understand, because one of the members of the public mentioned that at the last meeting,
Yeah,
and I can't see any validity in that statement. The whole principle is that when the stream is flowing
yeah.
at a full rate, there will not be deposition of sediments. We will be seeing erosion of sediments.
Even
So-
when there's a low area, it won't dip into that area?
because you've still, I mean, it's not as we've got with, what was originally a 72, 76 acre impoundment, where the stream is just overwhelmed by the volume of water. Here, I mean, the stream is flowing at its full rate, which can be extremely low, and it can be quite high. I also looked into the USGS data on this, and one can't say how much water is going to be in the stream, because it varies enormously with seasons and rainfall. In the middle of summer, especially August into early September, the flow in the stream can be as low as 4 cubic feet cubic feet per second, which is pretty slow. But in the winter and in the spring and later fall, it can be over 1,000 cubic feet per second, which is pretty much a torrent. So it's very difficult to say, but the when the stream is flowing
Yeah.
strongly, it will continue to scour out that hole. In fact, it may well make it deeper rather than depositing sediment. That's what I've been able to ascertain just talking to people who
So
have.
I'll add it in here.
The study was very clear that there is about 4 acres of a little pond left there.
Mm.
And we can note it as a question mark
Yeah.
to experts to say,
Yes.
will it fill, or will it stay, or will it even get larger because of the current and the flow?
Mhm.
But I think we should rely on this picture on what the study and the expert told us, that
Yep.
there will be kind of a 4-acre pond left.
Okay,
And
Okay.
we don't know for certain that that is the exact
No.
path that the stream will follow, but I guess they worked that out based on the contours, whatever you call those, of the bed, and so that's the most likely.
yeah, it's what we've seen
Yeah,
numerous times, and it's gonna be some version of this, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Can I bring up too, though, that in the I think in the 2012 survey, they
Mhm.
had the water path going slightly differently. They were going between
They
the
did.
2 islands, so it is still I mean, it's not, I think we are correct in like, this is what we see, this is what's being modeled right now, but
Mm,
Right,
I
right.
think it's something to keep in the back of our mind that, like,
right.
a decade ago, it looked slightly different. We don't really know
Absolutely.
why, but
Yep.
And it will change over time. That's the nature of
Yes.
That's right.
water flow. Yeah, it's in 10 years, 15 years from now, it could just move a little. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I will modify it to show that 4-acre zone. I will note it as a question mark. To the whole task force, we'll see what we can find out, and then I'll add the boat launch and the Pond Street access, and you'll see them on both.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Vicky, sorry, final point on this. I hope we all hope we get the 30% sign plan, and that should have a little bit better sort of bathymetric lines and forecast. But in the alternatives analysis, there is at least a rendering that we could utilize for the
Yeah.
extent of that deep
Yeah.
hole that would remain a pond.
So I have a list on my other screen I'll pull up afterwards, but it shows what we kind of precedent images we might want to present next week for each of these, so that we can have some sort of imagery.
Mhm.
Because everybody did a good job last time of providing some, but maybe organize it according to these. Okay, and then the last one, I know Sven, you missed the fun of this one, which was the, what would, if this was the brook and this one added, Jeff, you had sort of a area which could have taken a couple of paths, so I just left them there.
Yeah.
Again, the path is not as important as the rest of the discussion in a way. What would be the amenities we could add to this brook? With the wetlands and other things left over. So this one said same path-ish that goes around here. Maybe this is our 4-acre pond that remains no matter what, but this is, we would have a swimming area in here. And the question was, how deep does that need to be? We had said, do we need to dredge it to 10 feet for it to stay invasive free? So I left that as a question here because that was still a question for us.
so that was one of the things that I also did a little bit of research into. So
Okay.
so there is there's a now I have too many tabs open. What is it called?
I thought it was in the 2012
The
report.
Global Invasive Species Database gave some information about like the habitats that all of these kinds of things prefer in terms of sediment and pH, and essentially I can go in more detail, but essentially it seems like the 3 things that are in common across the fanwort, the milfoil, and the water chestnut is that they really like that kind of, they want slow water. So I think Malcolm, that kind of goes to, because I was like, all of them were like, rivers, slow moving in parentheses. And I was like, well, what defines a slow? I don't really know what the definition of slow moving rivers versus, but I mean, to Malcolm's point, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. But they also all really like kind of like fine silty stuff at the bottom. So I do think that, well, actually, I'm not going to give my interpretation. And then they they all obviously like a lot nutrient rich
Mhm.
sediment. So, and then, like I said, they all kind of liked pH within a certain range, but I don't think that's something that gets measured, and I don't really know how we would talk about what's going to happen to the pH after the fact. But also all three of these, like, because I was like, well, maybe there's something about temperature that will, but all three of them are like, they don't care what the temperature is, they don't care what the light is. Actually, so that was the one thing that I thought was interesting, is it seems like light is not, all three of these seem like light can help them, but they can deal one way or the other. They'll find a way to thrive.
Well, it's funny because when you go to the deep water hole here, you don't find any of those things right now.
Yeah,
They're not there. We didn't find water chestnuts there. We didn't find milfoil there. It's really like whatever's working over there is
Yeah.
working over there. And it's like if the whole pond could be like this, there wouldn't be any of those invasives. So whatever this magic this has going, which to me feels like it's the only thing it has going for it is the depth, because everything else
Yeah.
is equal.
well, and the other thing is, like, it may just be that there's so much good habitat everywhere else that, like, there's plenty of places for it to spread. Although
Yeah,
I
but
guess
I don't know. It's pretty much
everywhere.
spreading everywhere.
Yeah. So
I
the-
think this is like 12 feet deep right now. I think that's what it's got going for. And that's what the 2012 report said, right? It was either 10 or 12 feet was the magic number. And I think the issue for us, we put in here dredge, because when the whole level goes down another 5 feet, when we remove the dam, we now have a 4 to 6 foot depth in this deep hole. And so we were saying, in order to say it's going to be a swimming hole, what doesn't have invasives in it, we needed to dredge it to some depth. And that's what we had come to last time.
Yeah, I think, can I just say on that point, it will go down 5 feet at the end where the dam is. This is at the north end, so it probably is going to be at the higher end.
Isn't the water just level? It levels out.
Well, no, because it
Oh.
runs downhill.
Yeah, I think the bottom runs down. I don't think the top of the water level that's dammed, because it's dammed at this level. It doesn't do this, I don't think. I think it just does this across.
I don't know.
That's what my understanding was. When they measured the 119, they reported 119 is the level of the pond today. If we
Mhm.
remove the dam, it goes down to 115. At its
Right.
highest, right? So at 115 to 113, depending on the season.
Yeah, but is that measured at the dam level or is it measured?
I heard it was the pond, not at the dam, because at the dam you would have lower levels.
Let's write that down as a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it sounds, because the dam is not very high. It just sounds for me more like the dam height than
Okay.
so. But
So we left it as a question anyway, Sven. Yeah.
so for me, just to catch up, so the red dotted line is a
Yeah, let me keep going. Yeah, let me keep going. Okay, so all I did was show this one piece. So there is the red dotted line is this idea of, there's two of them, there's two paths, but it's the idea of being able to circumnavigate the pond in some way, allowing for that to happen. So what we said was, we already have, let's start here at the swimming area with a beach. That there, you could head up on the Bruce Freeman Trail, you could head through the Giroux Park or around it. Then there could be a tie-in through the MCI land. And I think there was some, feeling that we could probably get this to work, because there's already a roadway here. And then there would be a boardwalk system through this section. There would have to be some sort of bridge over the brook pieces. And then again, there could be a boardwalk through here, and then you would connect to Lawsbrook Road. And then there was a question, I think I can blow this up, maybe. If we blow that corner up, one option is that we come up Commonwealth Avenue and reconnect over to Giroux Park. But it felt like we weren't really, it was just sidewalk. It is the Lawsbrook scenario and the Commonwealth Avenue scenario. One other option was we go ahead and connect through this town land here. So there's only this portion would be on sidewalk. And we have a boat launch on this piece of town land against the brook. And you continue then and you connect over to the Bruce Freeman Trail again. And so we make this, what Envision Concord always talks about is, connecting all of our resources. And so this connects the Bruce Freeman Trail, Giroux Park, the brook, and really the
And-
center, connection into.
And
the
I read in the minutes that it said if having a, I don't know, a walk path closer to the brook is kind of, there were concerns.
Yes, so that was the other option, is to put it here.
Where?
Right, can you see my?
Yeah,
marker?
there, yeah,
Yeah, to put it here and connect it through to Giroux on the
up there.
brook side.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we can talk about that as a task force also as another option, but
I think the
that was
one
gonna be harder
question-
to get everybody to get buy-in on that.
Yeah,
one.
but the one question we need to get answered for that, and that's, I don't know who can answer that, is if the water resides, where is the property line of the abutters?
Mm.
And where does the kind of public land start? Because that gives us
Mhm.
the guidance, is there something to potentially use or not?
Yeah.
And how much is that?
Yeah, and we should talk about that for sure with everybody. I heard from one of my neighbors here that said the way his property was written is it's to the water's edge. So if the water's edge moved 30 feet, does that extend the property, or you're gonna have to now take it to court? It could
No.
be an issue.
I believe from what Delia has said that the town owns all the land under the current water footprint.
I think it's worthwhile putting it down as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
check,
Yeah,
how the property deeds are worded,
Yeah.
and not go off assumptions, because that changes a lot. If that is, even if it's only like in a handful of properties where you have that in, it faces kind of a challenge in what you can do.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
think,
Challenge if you already think that there might not be a butter buy-in, like why even go down that path if you then have a
Yeah.
potential legal
Yeah,
challenge?
but in the end, but also it comes to the question is who's responsible for the land that is suddenly there.
Right.
Mm.
So
There's gonna be a
even
lot
if
of
there's no
questions.
pathway, even if there's no pathway, who's responsible for
But
it?
there's gonna be a
Because
lot of questions on.
because we
butters.
get all these questions about the dam right now.
I know,
Who's responsible for maintaining the dam? We will get a lot of questions then. Who's responsible for maintaining
absolutely.
the
I
land?
mean, even I know that there's gonna be questions from like the Denaros who own here, and Chris, I mean, Liz, you own right there. It's like, what happens to the land at the dam?
Right.
It's, you are there anyway. So there will be a
So
lot of
that's-
questions from abutters.
I think, yeah, as others have said here, another one to have on the list of questions for the town to track down for us.
Yeah,
If I could just say, Vicky,
yeah, keep going.
thanks for pulling this all together.
Yeah, I can keep going,
The-
showing stuff too, but
Let
yeah.
me just, if
Yeah.
I could just comment on a couple things to catch while it's in my mind.
Sure.
One is, the trail, if we could symbolize that by what's already in place versus what would need to be sort of established, like from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock is pretty much in place here.
Right, right.
Except for that eastern section below the dam, unless you,
So here.
but you could put that on, the sidewalk from the Neshoba Brook Bakery
Yes.
behind Brookside Village, which has,
over
a
here.
public easement across the back. So if you made that on the south side of the stream, then that's all in place already.
But is this an easement right up against the edge, or is that the property of the gas station?
Gas station, I suppose, doesn't have an easement.
Mhm.
So yeah, but
You
as
couldn't
that
pass through.
has been proposed
I'm-
for redevelopment, there
I'm
was
not-
one concept.
Sure, I
Anyways.
think I listened into some of the planning board meetings around that. There was some discussion to make an easement as a condition, but I don't know if that happened.
It didn't
don't-
happen yet, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
So it's not,
Anyways,
there's no
that-
easement there
that's-
today, yeah.
that stretch could be symbolized as, TBD.
Yep.
Mm.
But for viewers to see the Lawsbrook, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail,
Right,
and even the stretch through the cornfields at the northwest corner, I suppose that's not truly publicly accessible at this point, so it would have to be
Yeah.
negotiated just like the others. And then
And I was
final
gonna
point,
make these different, right? The ones that going through wetlands or bridges, probably a different color
Yeah.
also. Mhm.
and then you made a point, or you commented, Vicky, that peninsula on the southwest corner, you commented, that would be a boardwalk going through there. I think that would be essentially a surface trail. So
This
it could
one
just
here?
be- Yeah, that stretch there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's a boardwalk and then it goes into a trail, right?
What about having a boardwalk from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, along or close to the brook to connect to the Giro Park?
This way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, most of this was trying to reduce the amount of
Yeah, I know. It's
dollars, because,
I
every
just,
time.
I just want to get in trouble with Carleen from Finance Company.
Because this is less than probably 1/10 the price of this,
Yeah.
so.
I think it might be worth putting in as a note, because I think part
Good
of the
idea.
draw of
Yep.
a pathway is like actually getting to see the water and walking along the brook. And so if we are kind of saying like, it doesn't even seem worth putting it alongside the
Mhm.
Wealth Ave side, like maybe it is worth. I mean, and that was, I feel like I remember when we were walking there, it was pretty over there. Like it would
It's
be lovely.
pretty.
to walk
It is
along.
pretty. No,
The
this walk
cornfield
is
is
pretty.
less pretty. Yeah.
But like right up against was.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, even this though,
Yeah.
I think, I mean,
Yeah,
even here,
no, it
the
is.
Stephen Trail is pretty, so
Yeah.
it's not like it's not a
That's
pleasant
true.
walk.
Yeah.
You're not walking on highway,
Yeah.
not yet.
Mhm.
And then the other things I think this had in here were potential for, I don't know why this isn't moving. Oh, sorry, I think Jeff, you had pointed out that since today there's some fishing opportunities in this area, we could continue to have fishing. On this area, we could make sure that
Oh.
whatever we end up with when we pull out the dam still has some. sort of
So
access.
let me point to one thing here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know people are using the dam for fishing. Yeah.
Mhm.
But this is facing more and more liability concerns for the town, because this is not secured. It's a non-secured area right now.
No, but in the future, the
Yeah,
dam.
no, I mean, when you say it's like it's right now used for fishing, it's getting more and more concern that what happens if a kid falls into into the dam or off the dam into that stuff where they fish. So I think if we can make a more secure fishing area in this scenario than we have now. And I think for the other task force, I think I don't know who's communicating to them at a certain point, but I think I'm not sure if the dam stands, if we can continue allow fishing there. So there are major concerns on this right now.
Well, I don't think anyone allows it. This is like kids with fishing.
Yeah, but it's
Going
coming up
off
with
of
all
bridges
it's now
everywhere.
coming up with all the questions around dam maintenance, making it accessible, that the kids not gonna fish there, and all of that, and now all of that topic cooks up. So the questions raised more questions.
Yeah. Now we'll put that on there. I think when we go to the full task force meeting, they're gonna hear all these questions, so.
No,
that's
no,
all
it's
we're gonna share.
definitely like, I think if we can offer a more secure fishing area
Yeah,
in our scenario where we have to look at, yeah.
good. And then that'll also, the question is, what is the depth of the brook here? Is there, and what is the fish passage? The same questions in the other one apply here too. What is the depth of these in high water and low water? And then what is the fish passage scenario here when we remove the dam?
But
So,
isn't then the fish just swimming through this area?
well, it depends. I mean, there's no water there right now.
There are a lot of fish there right now. It's like if I envision like shooting fish in a barrel when I walk past
Yes.
Silva right now.
This is
Yeah.
not like.
Oh, on the other side, the
beautiful
dam side, on the pond side. of the
Right
dam.
now, here, this is so low, there's very little fish passage.
Yeah.
It's almost dry. So you'd have to get into the Assabet to see fish, not really Neshoba Brook. So what is the real scenario? We have to answer that question for everybody, for ourselves. And then if I move up, the next part of this was keep the Commonwealth Avenue access. So I'll show that on the other drawings. And then have potentially, because this is a place where the brook could get close to land, actual land. And so could this be a place where we could still have parking and an accessible boat launch for somebody, you know, everybody, it's accessible to all. So that is a potential. It could also be a bird viewing area, a sitting area, sort of closer to the water. And then as we keep going towards Giroux, and then this could become just more amenitized. So we had talked about, should there be a playground here, swimming, skating with benches, an accessible dock here in this deeper water so that you could sit on and view sunsets or people swimming. So this is the location that could happen.
So
And-
the boat launch,
Mhm.
I'm just envisioning like this, the parking will be by nature super limited there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's as close as you can get to the brook with
Is
car.
there also a thought or a possibility to have a boat launch closer to the Giroux Park or at Giroux Park?
You'd have to redo some of the sidewalks and slopes at Giroux to do that. This is flat coming in.
Yeah, that
This
is.
is a deep slope.
Yeah, it's a steep slope. Yeah.
And I think to make it accessible to people in wheelchairs and elderly, it's gonna be hard, I think, to get an accessible boat launch at this location.
I think with some rearranging and formalization of the ComAv, and I don't mean like paving and curbing and anything, but just straightening things out, you could get 10 cars in there.
Absolutely.
And if you go to any of the town's boat
Yeah.
launches other than Calf Pasture on the Little Road, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's not such a heavy use on a small brook.
No.
Right. And this would be the most accessible one. If we had another boat launch here, we were talking about how on Monument Street, you know, people pull their boat, you know, cars up, they drop the boat off, and then they go park elsewhere. They could go park in the center or whatever else. So for people who are more mobile, there are other ways to get out on the water. This isn't the only 10 cars that could possibly boat here. So there are other ways to get out on this water. And if MCI does what, you know, looks like they
Yeah,
might be
then-
doing, there might be other access from here too, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
there is an access
Yeah,
from CI property.
so that could happen publicly too. So anyway, so those were the accessible points. There was talk, I think Jeff and Malcolm had put in a boat launch at Scout Island, because we could connect the brook to Scout Island too. I don't know what the depths are, land, we have to figure that out when it drops, but there's gotta be a way to connect so that you could still continue to access Scout Island from there.
So what about the security concerns the Boy Scouts had on Scout Island, that this is now more easily accessible by kind of a swampy pathway? Do we need to address that somehow, or is it something as a to discuss?
We should
I think
ask
that this is,
David maybe.
yeah, David, yeah, I agree. He's the one to really address that. He had said at times, like, was he even open to a boardwalk out there or something? So
He
It-
did
at
say
one
that,
point I
Jeff,
was-
yes.
I was surprised by his openness to it not
Yeah.
being a true island,
Yeah.
inaccessible, moated. But then I also think if we think of the view from the Pond Street and sort of the west side, which would be, you know, have not be as wet,
Mhm.
I still think it's going to be like a cattail marsh, at least for a stretch.
Mhm.
And I just don't see people wading through that kind of thing. It's
Right,
still
right,
pretty
yeah.
unpleasant to make your way through.
Yeah, but definitely we should I don't know, ask the question to him
Yeah.
how he looked at this and what their preferred solution would be and what the concerns are.
Hey, guys, I had
Great.
frozen for a bit, so I am a little bit out of,
Okay.
what were you guys just talking about? I'm sorry, I had to quit and come
This
back.
boat launch here, We had talked about, Malcolm and Jeff had shown a boat launch connecting the brook to Scout Island. This would be the way that the scouts could get onto the island. But also then public who's boating through here, would they have more access than they do today? Because right now, when I talked to David about like, could we just go out to the island? How did the scouts feel? He said, you have to call me at the scout house, then you have to call the fire department, let them know you're out there. That is the protocol today.
Okay.
So what happens when we allow a boat launch to connect to the brook?
Gotcha.
Is he concerned? Or do we have to put up a sign that says, private property, blah, blah, blah? Which we could, I mean, it could say private property. Do not touch.
But it doesn't do so now, and it's accessible to the public by canoe, kayak,
But
rowboat.
not really. He doesn't think that people go there. Like, let's just,
I think he's wrong.
I know, but that's his like, risk world hat that he's wearing, is that it's not accessible and people aren't allowed on there.
Mm.
So,
I think he doesn't want to know.
yeah, exactly.
Nobody comes out here.
Yep.
Vicky, a couple other thoughts on
Yeah.
the trail, not to get too stuck on the trail, but
Oh, it's okay.
I appreciate it being on here. I know we spoke about one bridge that's necessary to get over to the Wright Road area, and you've sketched in, the pedestrian bridge there, which was sort of my kind of a plan B type thing, and I'm not sure that's actually the best location. So I think if we could draw one up near the northwest corner here, where you have Trian Bridge connected to BFT, if you could draw it just to the right of the T in BFT,
Oh, here.
bridging,
Ah,
because
gotcha.
that's
Okay.
where we need kind of a ground level crossing. And then where you have that black bridge indicated,
Yeah.
there's already a bridge existing there. And then if
Well,
you
it's not a real
could-
bridge though, is it? It's just some steel.
No,
No, it's a
No,
real bridge there.
Oh, okay.
that's a real nice concrete bridge. And well, it's not real nice, but it's a real heavy duty concrete bridge. And if you then were able to draw, and I'd be happy to try to send a sketch here, but you could essentially draw an existing footpath down the west side of the brook that exists all the way down to the cul-de-sac on Wright Road.
Right.
And that,
Yeah, can you
if
send
we
me
do
that?
use-
Jeff? Yeah, if you can send me that.
yeah, I'll do that.
I definitely don't know that piece of it, yeah.
And Malcolm, I'll put in the other trails that go into the sand pits, although the sand pits are now full of solar panels and they
Yeah, I
don't want
saw
people out
that the other day. But yeah,
That would be great.
it does link to a broader network of trails. So
Oh, yeah. true,
Yeah.
true. Awesome. Okay. So that's what we had on this one. Now, what we didn't really get to was what would we add to this one? Now it's coming back. What would we add to this if we were going to do a mini, no dredging at all? There's gonna be somewhere between a 4 and 5 foot deep zone of water here. The access is still from here. Do we do a boat launch? So what do we do to this one without dredging or manipulation, as Liz likes to say?
Well, just because like if we have to shape it, like shaping the channel versus not shaping the channel, it's
Yeah.
that's the only reason I was trying to.
yeah, I
But-
actually attended a presentation today by the director of ecological restoration at Mass Audubon, and he was talking about this very issue of what happens to the sediment when you take down a dam, and do you spend significant amounts of money attempting to dredge out a riverway, or do you let nature take its course? And his overall was that it's very expensive to try to dredge out a riverway, and it almost always fails. And it's much better to let nature take its course And over a course of 3 months, 6 months, a year, as the river flows at greater or lesser strengths, it will carve out a channel that will be more functional than if you had attempted to dredge a channel. And you know, his whole point was that it's a waste of money to try and dredge a channel. Unless you're trying to get something specific out, like toxic sediment, which we're lucky we don't have here. So I think that helped me to clarify, you know, that perhaps we don't need to be spending that money, that we would end up with the same thing. And I do think
No,
we
but
need.
that's not what we're proposing here. There's no dredging at all in this
No.
scenario.
No, not
I
in
thi-
this one, but we had proposed it in the other one.
Not for a
But
channel. We just said we're gonna dredge, like Nara Park, let's say, we're gonna dredge a swimming hole.
oh, okay.
We're not gonna
I
dredge
had,
anywhere.
sorry,
Oh,
I-
yeah, yeah.
I had dredging the channel in my.
You dredged the entire channel.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought the other one was also kind of specific around like making sure, shaping the channel to where we want it to be versus
Hmm.
in nature.
So
So
I showed them both in the
I think
exact same
I
spot.
perhaps have a very like, simplistic and pragmatic view on this. I think this here is more or less kind of the base case where you say you take the thing out and you let nature do a thing. And you need to do that even for everything for the next scenario. You
Mhm.
need to let more or less the brook do its thing for a few months.
Yeah.
That you know how does it look like. And only then you can more or less make the final designs about anything you want to potentially add. Because in that moment,
Mhm.
then you know where the brook is, you know where say how the water
But let's
restarted.
say it's within 10 to 20 feet of what this line shows. What else would you add to this? That's not at all using any dredging kind of technology.
Yeah, and so I
Vicky,
think a lot
one-
of it is similar. to
I
what-
think it would be just very simplistic things to extend the existing access from the Commonwealth, just the extension there, that is not lost. Have kind of access.
With a boat launch, accessible boat launch from Commonwealth Avenue. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I write the,
Yeah.
we're not meeting again before next week.
Yeah. Have some kind of access from Giro Park.
So, but that's a very long way. It could be a very long way. What does that look
No,
like?
but I don't
It's a
think it's a long
boardwalk?
way because that's the deep water area. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a long way.
I think, Vicky,
Oh.
you just asked about a boardwalk, and I think that one of these, the scenario would be, we want water access from Commonwealth, and we want sort of that skating access or some water viewing, fishing, skating takeoff point from Giro Park.
I see.
And dredging is expensive. Building a longer boardwalk is relatively inexpensive. So, extending the dock, if the brook, the channel settles right adjacent to Com Ave, that's great. People can just haul their boats in. If it's 40 feet away, then we need a 40-foot, kind of platform to get out there.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I would say
if this becomes,
access for fishing down there is also easy. These are kind of the minimal, easy, low-hanging fruits where they don't have to put kind of a major debt on the town's
Okay.
sheet.
Yeah.
well, let me recap. I'm hearing we extend whatever we need to on Com Ave to get a dock, a boat, an accessible boat launch here. Maybe
Yeah.
it has viewing, maybe it has fishing on it, a couple of benches or whatever. We connect some portion of Giro Park to the deep water, which will naturally connect to the brook. And that
Yeah.
will be skating access and viewing and fishing also.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And then you can have fishing down there where the dam was.
And fishing here?
Yeah.
Do we need that if we have it here and here?
I don't know.
I'm
it
trying to
could-
keep this minimal.
Yeah, but
Well-
it probably doesn't cost a lot.
It only
Yeah.
cost a few $1,000s,
The pocket park is already there. There's already.
and
like-
it's there. Yeah. I just want to share, because we seem to go round on this. I'm just going to discontinue your thing for a second,
Yep,
Vicky.
I'll stop sharing.
And this is what we have from the 2023 report. Now, obviously, it's an artist's rendering, but this is what they thought of for. This is Giroux Park behind us here, and this is the deep pond, and they did not seem to be suggesting that this is going to be miles away from the pond.
It may not be one, because I didn't have the deep ponds shown here, but I
Right.
also would not believe this artist rendering, because there's nothing over 6 inches tall in any of the grasslands here, so I have a feeling it's gonna be much taller.
Malcolm,
Yeah,
could you go to the page, if this is the same document that has the sort of the bird's eye view of, or the ortho image of the extent, of the a little, I think it's before that.
Yeah,
That's
what's
potentially
the
with dam
difference?
removal.
Oh, that's current, and that's
Yeah,
with
that's
dam
dredging,
removal.
that's dam removal, right?
There you go, that's it.
But I want to get, maybe it's down a little further, Malcolm, I apologize. But
That's okay.
basically, if we have the straight down image, it would help when we translate this to the map, Vicky, that
Yeah.
we have
Oh,
the
so do you mean the
Where the
kind
deep.
of where the
area
deep holes
is. Yeah,
sit
Is it page
within the-
87, I think? It's not like an artist rendering, but on page 87, they have where they think.
87, is it?
Thank
Because
you.
that's the one that you, I think you guys drew on.
Yeah.
potentially.
That's certainly what I drew. That's it there. Whoop. Let me
Is that
shrink
what you're
it.
talking about?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so Vicky,
Yeah,
we
that's
could
the
go
4
off of this,
acres.
but
Yeah.
it's definitely up in that northernmost stretch and not in
Yep.
front of the Giroux
not in front
viewing
of
point.
Giroux, yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Okay,
But I did notice also, I mean, Giroux Recreation Area is quite large. It goes around the pond there.
That's right.
The what's it called?
pavilion,
The pavilion and everything is only one part of
That's
Giroux
right.
Park. It's quite a number of acres.
That's right.
yeah, it's just when it gets
And
to
that-
that other side, the trails really do
Yes,
get narrow and
they
things like
do.
that, so it's not like pond accessible trails, they're more.
But it could be.
But it could be.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot to alter a trail. And mostly trails are made and fixed up by volunteers. So
Yeah, but just remember, the slope toward here is much greater than, it's
Mhm.
flat down here on Commonwealth Avenue. Giroux happens to be on a raised
Mhm.
portion. Whatever we do does, we want to
Yeah.
accessibility for the new, at least the new stuff for sure. But I will add it, no worries.
I do think we want to also leave in the circumnavigation, regardless of what.
Agreed.
So that whole red trail with
Yeah.
your changes to that, Jeff?
Yeah, but I think
Um,
then we start to re-engineer our other scenario. I think is if we can have, if you take what's the most expensive stuff on the dream scenario, and that's definitely adding a bridge somewhere. So it would be kind of having potentially some kind of access.
But adding-
So
I
what if
think
they're
that
dead
it's-
end? What if they're dead end trails? Like you just get to trail where we can add a trail on land and you have to turn back or you loop around and come back, like. do
that's what we
have to
currently have.
The thing is that I don't think, I mean,
end it?
having a circumnavigating trail doesn't, there's no dependency on any pond manipulation to have that. So like
Well, you have to build bridges though. Bridges are.
yes, but you're
expensive.
not, yeah, but I guess I get what you're saying. Okay.
I'm just trying
I
to
just
We
figure
could
out,
do
feel
it
like,
today.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, like, do you want to make number 2 almost as expensive as number 3?
Well,
what
I think
would-
this is like
what-
getting back to our first meeting where we were having a hard time figuring out what the difference is between like,
Mm.
I know.
But still, I think I don't know who said it. We should show the trails that are here
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Yeah, just to make that comparable, to say is even without investing in too much of new trails,
Yep.
these are the trails that are already there, and you could do kind of a 3/4 circumvention.
That's right. So
with
Jeff,
the
will you get me
existing trails.
those? Will you get me that drawing on?
Yes, I will,
then-
I'll send some trail
And it,
maps.
I would be surprised if the dredging group will be proposing adding bridges to go across to make a complete circumnavigation. But
Let's see. I think it's not up to us to second guess, and
We're gonna hear it in a few days.
doesn't change our
days.
task. Yeah,
No.
it doesn't change our.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna try to see if we can close this and go through. I have a list of what I think are images we should add to this presentation to the task force. Do we feel like we're in
Yeah.
a?
I'm going to go back to your presentation, Vicky, if
Yep.
that's all right, unless everybody wants this.
I'll
That's
have to
fine.
share, I think.
Um,
Do you want me to share, or are we okay with the?
I
drawing?
think you'll need to share again if you
Yeah.
want that up.
But do we need those drawings still? I think we all are pretty good shape if we can make these changes to each of these. I think
Mm.
we've got some pretty good changes to add. Jeff, you're gonna get me some information.
Yeah.
What I do have then, if we could talk about, do we want to add some imagery? I pulled up, like, if we were to make a full presentation, we'd say, just for everybody's edification, here's the dam that we're talking about. We're talking about these pieces that would be removed, so that we're
Mhm.
clear on what would be removed. And then do we have images from the person who did our presentation of what a removed dam looks like in process, like, so we can understand what that is gonna look like at the end of the day?
We-
And what would remain in scenario one, like the brook at the highest water level and brook at the lowest water level? What's it going to look like? What are we
And
proposing?
that should be in the hydrology report in the
Yeah.
30%.
Mhm.
Yes,
plans,
we're
yeah, hopefully we
hoping,
have.
we're hoping.
But I think
What's
that
the ETA on that one? Isn't that already overdue?
Everybody
that,
keeps
Sven?
asking for this. Every time we talk about dam removal, people are like, what's it gonna look like? And so far, we haven't
Well,
answered that question.
I-
So
I
I feel like the dam removal group should answer that question.
I think that we can reasonably assume that it will look, although the surroundings will be different, it will look a lot like the current path of Neshoba Brook downstream of the dam.
So let's get that photo and put it in here and say this is an
But
assumption. we're making.
Photographing it now shows it at its lowest point.
But that's one of the scenarios. We should do it
That's-
at its lowest and its highest, right? So-
Right. And its highest is, flooding Neshoba Bakery.
Right. I probably
will,
have a photo of that.
I'll try to get over and get some images of Fort Pond Brook,
Yeah, good.
which, as it goes west of,
Yes.
goes over towards the School Street Fields, is a pond meandering through a marsh, versus near Neshoba Brook Bakery, that's all channelized and sort of a
Yes.
straight shot.
That's actually a very good, although Neshoba will be bigger than Fort Pond Brook. I think the other thing that I was out there fairly recently, and we've been talking about invasives on the floodplain, as it were, and they have remarkably few invasives out there. Maybe some of the grasses that are there are invasive, and I don't know how to identify them. But I didn't see a lot of Phragmites and nasty willows and things out there. So that might
Where
bode-
was that, Malcolm?
That was on Fort Pond, on the path that goes on the side. There's an esker there that
Yeah.
you can walk along the side of, and you get a really good view of Fort Pond Valley there.
But further up, when you go up Bruce Freeman Trail, there are areas that are choking with invasives. I don't know what's going on, but the difference.
Yeah, well, that's a different, that's a completely different scenario. Because, I mean, Fort Pond branches off before that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm
But
just,
yeah,
I was curious if some of what we're gonna see looks like some of what's Neshoba Brook looks like as you go up on, Bruce Freeman Trail.
I hope not.
Well, why wouldn't it? It's going to connect to Bruce. Yeah, anyway, we should figure that out too.
This, when I was like looking at stuff last night, there was an academic paper that people have put together around, sort of modeling different, different, like what different outcomes might be based on like sort of the situation you were in now.
Mhm.
It was academic and this was like midnight, so I didn't really read it. But I don't know if that's worth sending to you guys.
It'd be
Like,
good.
do you think if it's a good, I can
You
put the.
you can't send it to us without sending it to the.
Well, so what I was gonna say is I think I can attach it in the minutes and we can, I don't know if the
Yes.
best way to handle that is like just attach it in the minutes, say like this was sent to the subgroup
No,
after
you
this.
can't send it to the subgroup. You have to attach it to the minutes and send it to the town clerk. You cannot send it to us. That's what my
Send
understanding.
it to Toby and the
Cool.
leadership team.
You can circulate a draft of the minutes to the group for their input,
That's it.
as I did. Well, you can
Yeah,
attach
okay.
any attachments or annexes a part of the minutes then.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a way to get around that. That's good.
Yeah, it's more like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't really know how useful it is because it feels like it could be useful. So, or
Yeah.
it could just be too much.
There
Yeah.
are some really interesting papers out there on this, and what's interesting is that a lot of this is very new. People are just beginning to learn what happens with a lot of these small to medium-sized dams, and what happens with the sediment and revegetation, etc. There's not a vast amount of experience with it yet.
But I will
Okay.
say around invasives, I'd love to see that paper. I think the species we spoke about last time that are most likely to be the issues: Phragmites, Japanese knotweed, reed canary grass, purple loosestrife. These are the kind of the emergent invasives. Not, I think some of these aquatic invasives will stay around the whatever
Yeah.
still water remains,
Yeah.
but these are manageable. It's not easy, but that I think we're all in agreement as a task force that an investment after any changes at the pond in invasives management needs to be budgeted.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So we should put that on our list. So the reason I put this up is I think it would help the whole group. As you guys shared last time, we pulled up Narra Park last time. It would be good for everyone to see some of these images as part of how we talk about some of these things, because it is how we came up with our plans, is looking at some of these images. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we can possibly only send me what you can of this list of 14 images. I will pull what I can. I can get Narra Park. I can do, I can, look up some of this stuff, but if you guys can help me with additional images, I can pull them into a whole Word document. We can make it part of the
Okay.
presentation.
We can do that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So I'll get the images mentioned.
And then we should do another round of public comment, just,
Wait, just,
1 through 6 or some of those.
for next week's meeting or for the larger task force meeting, I know Toby had mentioned in his email that we were gonna be doing potentially some small group work.
Yeah.
I am gonna be remote. I'm
Okay.
driving back from New York, so I don't know if we wanna,
Yeah.
if anyone has ideas on how to make that happen.
That's not gonna be easy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put it
It
in.
feels like we don't really need another meeting for our small group, because it feels like we're gonna present these 3 schemes and these precedents, like we're ready. We are ahead of the game. I think.
Yeah.
A couple of the groups have only had 1 or 2, they're having their second meeting, and then they might need some more time. I don't know.
I don't know.
For me,
Liz,
it's more like let's say we present, we get feedback, but what's next? So how do we get from after we collect feedback to something that we say is how do we get to the cost level and other things?
I think
Well, I
that's
think we're gonna get feedback from the whole task force. They're gonna say, love your scenario 2, get rid of the other 2 scenarios, or whatever they're gonna say, right? And then, but add this, tweak this, move this, and then I think what we said is we're going to, as a task force, look at all of them as against the criteria, once everyone's ready, like, let's just say we each.
But
we
part of
narrow
the
it down to
criteria
2
is the
schemes.
finance cost, the cost part.
Well, the cost one, we're gonna put out to estimator. They're gonna get an estimator to, but we have to get them down to a certain number. We're not gonna
Yeah.
estimate 3 for us, 3 for them, 3 for them. If we can get it
No,
down to 1 or 2
Yeah.
per group, then they're gonna get a cost estimator
Yeah.
to come in and estimate each scheme.
Yeah, that was my understanding too, is that we're gonna give one final proposal to, oh my God, the
Yeah,
yeah.
Not even EA, there'll be a cost
Oh, to
estimator.
DCR, not DCR, whatever our
NRC.
quote is.
And
Thank you. And they're gonna be handling that cost
Yeah.
piece. But I do think that, yeah, Vicky, what you were saying about, because I also think that as we go through the criteria, we're gonna be like, oh, we're missing this criteria in this. Let's think about adding this in. So I do think that the
Yeah.
proposal will shift and change
Okay.
as we talk.
So there'll be a
Well,
couple
let's
more
say
meetings before we
yeah,
have
so
the
let's
final
say
estimate.
we would start after the feedback and implementing feedback.
Yeah.
Start comparing that to the set of criterias.
That's right.
Hopefully getting some cost estimates here.
Yep.
So that we can include that in our work. Yeah.
That's right.
Hmm.
could I comment on just 2 items? And I think this may be solved once we kind of put all the images together. The first one, Vicky, on your image, you showed the large, deeper water area in front of Giroux. And that was east of where the deep
Hmm.
pool
Yeah,
is.
I'll move that. I'll move that.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I'll move
because as shown, that's essentially dredging and dam removal, I think. And so I guess that we were presenting the concept with some question marks about needing to know the shape and depth
it.
and longevity of that deep pool and whether,
Mhm.
you know, that needs to be manipulated in some fashion. But I
Right.
do want to avoid
Mhm.
taking 2 bites at the apple and saying we're the dam removal team, but we're assuming significant dredging, which
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it
could
would
be
only be
prohibitive.
the existing 4.5 acres and dredging it or manipulating it to whatever depth it needs to maintain its clear invasive
right.
free
Weed
condition.
free.
That's
Yeah,
right.
And
good.
I
So we
think
want them
there,
to manage it, right?
yeah, if I could, I think there are several questions that we don't. Sorry, I've got a telephone going on in the background. Several questions that I don't think we fully have the answer to, like what will that area be like? What will its depth be after it's drained? I think EA probably had a guess at that. The actual channel, all we can do is take, you know, the best guess. But other things that had been raised, will it be safe to swim in the water? We need to be able to say definitively yes or no. If not, why are we proposing to make access? Liz, you've already somewhat addressed the aquatic invasives, so that's not so bad. But I don't know if there are other major questions like that we need to address. We may not have the answers for next week's meeting, but it would be nice if we could at least say, yes, we're thinking about that and we don't have an answer yet. And of
I
course,
think-
Yeah,
And
I'm guessing,
some
I'm
are
guessing
for
the
sure
task
over,
force.
and
Go
some are for sure overlapping with the dredging task force, like the water
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
section.
Yeah,
And I'm hoping this 30%, which theoretically is finished right now, the 30% design is gonna answer how deep is it going to be when the dam is removed? How wide is it gonna be when the dam is removed? What is the path that's gonna be there theoretically, maybe? And how deep is the deep water
Yep.
hole when the dam is removed? I'm hoping.
When we
that
when we
design-
present it, I think we should in the beginning make clear that all what we did is kind of subject to still seeing the 30%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Liz,
Um,
since you're taking the notes, can you be the one with just our remaining questions? Can you just put them into a?
Yeah, so you guys, my internet connection is, Zoom's telling me it's unstable. So I cut out I missed part of that. So I heard we need to be able to answer if swimming is gonna be safe. And then what was the end of what you were just talking about? I only heard the tail end of what.
Well,
said in
what
the-
depths, we're talking about what depths, what widths, and is the water quality, safe? But I think it's, a lot of that hopefully is in the 30% design package.
I don't know if this is an open, how much of a question this is, with Paul on the task force, but because Duro Park is not, people wanted to say DCR, so
Recreation.
recreation, it's not NRC, it's recreation.
yeah, it's not, they're separate, like, how much. I think, and I assume this is probably also one of those questions that other groups are gonna be talking about too, is like, how much can we say, hey, let's change things in Duro Park because it's a different
Mm.
body and it's owned by different
Yeah,
people.
we'll
So,
figure that out. We'll figure
yeah,
that
so I think that's especially since like some of the stuff we're doing is like really talking about amenitizing Duro, like,
Theoretically, it's not, recreation will start to take part in this when it finally is finished and gets turned over. The reason it's sitting in this limbo is because it's incomplete. They can't get it out of the contractor's hands, so
Yeah.
that's gotta happen first.
yes.
Folks, one other, Liz, did you want to make another point? Great. The other thing I had in mind, which I haven't brought up yet, and several folks have brought it up, which is kind of haven't incorporated into the plan, is I think it would be important to sketch a desire to mitigate the stormwater runoff from Route 2, get rid of it, deal with that in some other fashion instead of dumping it into Warner's Pond, or have a settling basin up in the cornfield somewhere between Route 2 and Warner's Pond, so that
Yeah.
we're not getting sediment and nasties running off into.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
I think the other
also
two
the
questions, I
town-
think, Liz, I was gonna add to your two questions, they were early on goals were, what is the fish passage scenario for each of these? What kind of fish will pass through
Mm.
this new brook? And what is the cold water, warm water scenario of this new brook?
Well, I think that one is easily answered from OR's data. The
I don't
the
think
guy
they
who
did. I
the
don't
guy
think
who
they-
presented was quite clear that if the dam is taken out, then the temperature at downstream of where the dam currently is will be the same as the readings from the Neshoba Brook upstream of the dam before the impoundment. He was quite clear about that the distance isn't enough in the normal scheme of things to change the temperature. It's only because of the impoundment that we're seeing a 1 degree Celsius change.
Okay, let's just confirm that, because I don't have that clarity from what I heard from him, so let's just make sure. That, because
Okay.
what I heard from him is it's not really going to change to be enough to be a cold water passage.
It will not
No.
make it a
So it
cold
will
water
never be a
boat.
cold water passage, so
No, that
cold
was
water
clear.
fishing.
Well,
That's true.
let's I think that there's improvement in having a cooler stream.
Yes.
Yep.
When we talk about fish that require cold water habitats, I think Ben spoke about a 20 degrees Celsius sort of ideal threshold.
Mhm.
The Neshoba Brook coming into the pond is not below that in the summertime.
No.
And so we're not going to have a year-round destination cold water brook trout
No.
stream that people are going to come and fly fish in all the time.
Mhm.
But it will be significantly cooler, and that will help both by providing passage by removing the dam and by having, avoiding that over 2 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature. That will help the fish species that prefer cooler water to move through Neshoba Brook, move upstream to the tributaries that are cold water streams, and that will, they will utilize it. It won't have this sort of thermal barrier. You know, we shouldn't imagine that we're going to take down the dam, but we're still going to have a hot stream that fish won't use. That's not the case. I think fish will not be
Certain
deterred from
fish,
using
right?
it.
Certain fish do use it now. I mean, that don't need the cold water. I mean, there's a lot of fish.
Right. So even our cold water species would move through it. That was also
Mhm.
my takeaway from the
Yes.
presentation.
That's what he
Except for,
said.
except for a few months.
Clarify. Let's
Yeah.
clarify that, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's, I think we just have to look, I mean, I think his, PowerPoint is on the task force
Oh, it's-
website.
okay,
right?
that's- yeah.
And you can also watch the recording, I think. It was
Oh, that'd
very
be better,
clear.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very
And
clear.
I think several of us have. I filled out the survey saying we'd still love to get a fisheries expert. Ben did not present him as himself as a fisheries expert, although he was happy to try to answer some of our questions.
I think it's really important for that because I can't make head nor tail of the situation. So it would be really good to have a someone who knows what they're talking about.
And to get it for year-round information, because we saw it presented for July and August, but I don't know what the possibilities are September through June. So we just need the full information. But anyway, so those are things, Liz, we should just make sure still stay open.
Yep.
Do we want to move to public comment? I see 2 hands up.
Let me just ask, how could we, Vicky, how would you imagine capturing in our conversation? Maybe it is not a point on the map, or maybe it's a star, but that idea of the stormwater outfall.
Oh, yeah, I can put it
Um,
on there. I can put it on as a dot and say close off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this is a thing that should be applied to all scenarios, because you don't
yeah,
want,
okay.
Mm.
don't want to
Yeah.
have that. It's unfortunately stuff the state needs to do, not the town.
Right. Well, ideally, when somebody fast tracks getting rid of the rotary, which I guess there are members of the House who are wanting to do that, then the state will take
And
care
that
of that.
should take care
Yeah,
of
we can
it.
make
Yeah.
that.
I think
request.
we should make public note of that there is a desire to change that.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will not be part of the project because it's
Right.
outside of the scope.
I love that.
Mm.
Okay, so our next meeting is August 13th, is a full task force. We'll present all of this information. I'll compile what everybody gives me. And then we'll set up another meeting after that. We'll see if we need to keep meeting separately, or if we're gonna just start meeting as a full task force. Let's see what happens on
Mhm.
next week, okay? All right, public comment, are we good? Everybody on this group, good?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay, Anna, you had your hand up first.
I had 2 things. One is if you want to
Hey,
talk
Anna.
about
It's in, I just want to
yeah.
make sure I heard your last name. It's in your thing.
Anna
Sorry.
Feldwig. No, it's okay. Anna Feldwig, 343 Commonwealth Avenue. The person who wrote the letter that I submitted, Brad Chase, he is the fish passage expert for the Talbot's Mill Dam Removal Project. I'm not sure. The reason he didn't offer to come and give a presentation is because the town didn't invite him. But if the task force invites him, he can come, and he's the guy.
Oh, good, okay.
The other thing that I wanted to say is, I haven't heard mention anything about the fact that this particular option of dam removal, as I understand it, can be modeled by lowering the water level, could be done for a full year before you take the dam down, using the boards and that valve at the bottom of the dam to lower the water and see where it goes. Is that not correct?
That is correct,
The downside,
yes.
no, it's not 100% correct. The downside is that the sediments are not taken out in the same way when you do that, like just a little kind of exit with the boards, than if you take the whole dam out. You have a complete different behavior on the sediments.
But Sven, I don't mean to. Well, I guess I do mean to contradict you because I'm contradicting you. I was hearing today that it is actually a legitimate approach.
Okay.
Is to lower the water, and not so much taking the boards out, but if we can use the the 24-inch
whatever.
pipe
Yeah.
to lower the water. That can serve two purposes. Number one, it will give a sense of, but not definitive, of where the channel will ultimately be. And number two, it can be used to pre-dry out some of the sediment, which helps then with the actual management of the sediment when the dam does come out. So I
is
only
this-
learned
That
that
be worked
today.
in?
Okay, is
Shouldn't
this
that be worked
then,
into
is this
this?
then a pre phase one scenario where you say
Yeah.
there is the option 0, let's say it that way, to just lower the water and see where it is and make a decision after that? Is this just
I don't think that's what's proposed. That's what is suggested. What's suggested is that is a first stage in dam removal, so that the management of the sediment is a huge issue in general. And by doing that, you have a much better sense of both where the water is going to flow and what the sediment is going to do in order to be able to then either actively manage it or passively manage it, whatever.
Because
That
you
could
could
help
do that
us.
for a year and see where the water is at all different seasons before you destroy a new dam.
That's a good point. And also it
Um,
might help us figure out what's gonna happen with the invasives, and maybe would help us come up with where we need herbicides and where we don't, and that, because we're all guessing a little bit on what's gonna happen to some of that edge material.
One thing for our group to consider is like, what is the additional, is there additional permitting associated with that? Like, I think that might be something that's worth a question of, like,
Yeah.
what is the lift on this to do this, or not lift,
Mhm.
that's not right, but
And
like, what-
I do recall that, didn't Delia say at the last meeting that they have a new person joining them and she was going to assign them to look at this?
Yeah, but that is for stormwater stuff. That has nothing to do with this.
I know,
thing.
I
No,
didn't
she
know.
asked them about the engineering of they were supposed to take a look at what the engineering of the dam is. She was gonna
Yeah.
look at the design and stuff like that, so we can actually understand the capabilities of the dam
Yeah.
we have.
But we have, interestingly enough, who lives in Concord and has come to our meetings, one of the designers of the dam, the engineers of the dam. The original engineers.
From 18 something?
No, this dam, geez.
Well, Dan
This-
Stapleton, do you mean Dan
Yeah,
Stapleton?
because he's the
He
engineer.
works for the same company,
Yeah,
but he wasn't involved in actually,
designer.
yeah.
But
but yes, he's here.
yeah, he can give us, he and his company can give us that update. I mean, they are the experts on this dam. Okay, I'm gonna move to Carlin. Thank you.
Thanks. Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm your liaison, and I've had the pleasure of watching all 3 subgroup meetings. When you listen to the dredging subgroup, they focused on not so much how much it's going to cost to dredge, but how much they're going to be allowed to dredge, because they have to find a place to put the dredged material. And what they're talking about is in a triangular space that's north of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and south of Route 2. That area forms kind of a V.
Yeah.
And for stormwater runoff treatment purposes, you can't fill it up to the 12 to 15 feet height
Right.
that the original 35,000 feet. It has to be much lower. It's like 6 or 7 feet, which will reduce the amount of fill that can come out of the pond. Now, dredging was mentioned on one of your maps, so finding out how much you're going to be allowed to dredge will also be a point. I just
Sure.
wanted to pass that along. That's it.
Thank you.
I think no matter how we look at it, especially if I show a smaller area like I should have done, I don't think we're ever gonna approach the numbers that the dredging option is talking about. So it's a smaller number for sure. But we should confirm that at some point once we finalize our scheme for when we have to actually price it out. Thank you, Carlin. Okay, otherwise, I think we are ready if somebody wants to close it out.
You do, you're in charge.
You're the chair.
No, doesn't somebody just make a motion?
No, you just
Nope.
say it's over.
Oh, the meeting's over. Thank you, everybody. We'll
Thank
see you on
you.
Tuesday, but everybody has homework. You guys owe me stuff. You're not done yet. You guys need to send me stuff and then we'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank
can
you
send us
for-
a list of photos that you need so I can include that in.
Yeah, I
the
was
note.
gonna try to, can I put it in a chat here? Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can add it right here.
Vicky, thank you for pulling those graphics
Thank you.
together.
Sure.
Yeah,
my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Okay, it's in this chat,
Oh, we lost Sven.
Liz.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, great. That's helpful. Yeah.
Okay. The person who sends me the most, I will bring you a cookie. All right, thanks, everybody.
I guess.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right. Great incentive. So I'll be on it. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.